Hello, 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 and happy New Year's Eve to everybody. Welcome to the Emotional Entrepreneur Show with Summer and
Jen.
Hey, Jen. Hey, hello, everybody
It's
out
New
there.
Year's Eve.
It is. Woohoo! Here we are. It is New Year's Eve, and we are so excited to be here with all of you talking about another new subject. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so helpful for bringing in the new year. It really is, especially those who really want to show a different side of themselves, to really get, just beyond the comfort zone, right? So it's really, so this is what we're talking about. We're talking about, I can't even speak today. I'm so excited that it's New Year's Eve, I guess, right? So
Me too. I thought it was Tuesday yesterday.
already we're jumping into 2025. So with eagerness.
I know.
So beyond the comfort zone, embracing visibility for growth, for entrepreneurial growth, for your growth as a person, getting into the uncomfortable and starting kind of to push the edge a little bit about what that means for you, how that makes you feel. Because really, when we do that, there's so many great things that can happen, so many wonderful things that you would never expect. I have been in so many different situations throughout my several decades of life, and and I can tell you I've been in a lot of uncomfortable situations, but during those times, I actually experienced things that if I wasn't in that place, I would have never experienced before. I would have never met the people that I met. I would have never realized maybe that I had a different passion than I thought, or I had a different trajectory for myself. And I'll give you an example. So, one of the things that when I was coming up the ranks of human services and psychology, I worked in nonprofit, and I loved working in nonprofit, and I loved building large collaborations. I love bringing community together. I still do. And I had the best mentors. But when we moved as a military spouse, we moved over and over and over again. And one of the moves that we made was from San Diego to Sacramento and California. And so basically during that time, I again was out there looking for a job, and I applied for a local government job. And it was for triage, emergency mental health care. And it was for one of the largest locked facilities in the state of California. And it was scary. It was something that I've never done before. I walked into a locked facility, and that was a little eerie. Like, wow, what does this mean to be in a locked facility? How does this feel? There are really no windows. There's just a lot of different feelings, a lot of different things that running through your mind because you're always in a crisis situation. But what I learned from that is teamwork, collaboration. I mean, serious connectedness with the people that I worked with, because we were always dealing with crisis situations. And sometimes those crisis situations could elevate very quickly, and you needed your team, right away. And so I really love to learn to love that collaboration, that different mentorship that I received. And I realized this is what I want to do. I want to be in a fast-paced mental health triage emergent setting. And I did that for 3 years, and I absolutely loved it. It was nonstop. You really didn't get a lunch. You really didn't get a break. It was just go, go, go. Because when somebody says, I'm feeling homicidal, I'm feeling suicidal, I'm feeling, A, B, and C. You're not going to go, excuse me, I got lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to wait for another hour.
Or even when you are taking a lunch, perhaps there's a code, right? Where there's a code blue or a code this or a code, where you need to get up and help your team. And you put everything down and you get to the site where your team was, where your team member needed you. And so they didn't call a code unless it was necessary, and so that was a situation which really took me out of my comfort zone,
Mhm.
and where I really learned a lot of new things about myself and about others. Jen?
Wow. I'm just it doesn't surprise me that that you really loved it, because I was even thinking to myself, like, the times that I really enjoyed, different work environments was the same thing where, I mean, it wasn't in that kind of crisis, emergency type situation. But it's interesting when you understand what you enjoy in terms of work. Like, do you like slow pace, steady pace, fast pace? Do you like to work in, alone or in a team? It really teaches you a lot about yourself. And I think that's really interesting when we can stop and reflect on, like, what kind of environment do I need to be in or to create for myself to be working where I love it. I'm showing up the way I wanna show up, and it lights you up, and because when we can do that for ourselves and be allowing ourselves to be in that kind of environment, that's when we can be our best version of ourselves and be focused and just being who we wanna be, and so, I love that you identified that you loved it, because I was like, "Yeah, fast paced, that totally makes sense."
Oh, yeah. It was like getting into a race car.
Wow.
Starting at the starting line, your car, I don't know if you've ever been in like a low profile race car, like, and when you get in and you start the engine, it kind of goes down. It kind of goes and it gets really low to the ground, so it can have that balance and that,
Oh, the center of
versatility
gravity.
yeah, and to really
Gotcha,
curve
there.
and stick to the ground. And so it was kind of like that when you walked in those doors. It was kind of like you were getting into that vehicle. Your
Here
body
we
was like,
go.
"Whoop, here we go." And so it was like adrenaline was always going. But with that said, you also needed to have that frontal lobe working where it's like quick thoughts really fast. Like you needed to be in place, thinking very swiftly about the decisions that you were going to make so you weren't hurting yourself or others in the process. And
Right.
so it was an exceptional learning experience. But I do want to kind of shift here a little bit, because this is about, getting beyond your comfort zone, but it's also about embracing visibility, right? And so part of this conversation is about where are you taking yourself out of that comfort zone to really become more visible. And I think, a lot of times for many of us, that means social media.
Oh, yeah.
And that means how are you putting yourself out there in in a social setting, on social media, so that people get to learn more about you. And a lot of times, like, especially for my age group, the way that we were raised, if you go back and look at like pictures, if you look at video, we literally had to get a video camera. It wasn't just, we didn't have access to a phone to do video, right? So when people did come around, and I was watching these old 1980s party videos, when people are going around with a video camera, people were actually dodging the camera. They were like,
Oh, how funny. You're
oh my
right,
God,
you're
they
right.
they did not want to be on camera. And it
That's
was so
funny.
funny because it was one of the things is I'm not at this party and there's not going to be evidence of this, right? That was one of the
Right,
big things because we were teenagers at parties, right? And then it was just like it wasn't as as something that we had every day. What's the word that I'm looking for? It wasn't as accessible. It wasn't something
right.
that we did or used every day. So when we do use it, now, especially as I said, I'm going to go back to my age or older, it's like we think more about, do we want to be videoed? What does that look like? Why are we being videoed? Why are we putting ourselves out there? Right? What's the purpose? And a lot of people are very intimidated by that. And yet, we need to reframe that visibility, especially when it comes to social media, as a service and not self promotion necessarily, or as something you're trying to help support others with in regards to their pain points, because you have expertise. You have you have your own story, and that's what being more visible is all about, is telling that story, showing up, and talking to people or community in a way that you can help support them and solve their pain points. Jen?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important is understanding that if you want to serve people in whatever way that is, whatever your expertise is or experiences in, if we keep allowing that fear to be the barrier, um, we're not going to be able to serve at a high capacity. It
Yeah.
is, so it's almost like this thing that we have to almost like go beyond that, and almost, it's going to sound weird, but it's almost like looking at it like I'm being selfish if I don't show up. I'm being selfish if
Mm,
I'm allowing my fear to get in the way of me getting to the people that need my help. And so it's almost like you have to go beyond yourself, and for example, like, and even in like this example that you gave when you were in these crisis situations at the clinics and whatnot, it's like, it's scary. Some of these people, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know how they're going to react when you're trying to help them. But you put that aside because you're trying to save this person's life,
yeah.
right? And so
Um,
it may not be that extreme in some people's, if you're, depending on whatever it is you're selling or whatever you're doing, but in a weird way, it's almost like kind of selfish. I think about like, yeah, how can I like not allow myself to be seen if and not show up because I'm afraid, but I'm getting in the way of helping somebody else. We're
yeah.
getting in our own way, and so there's something that we have to do where we have to get past that fear and realize, the other thing too, which I have to understand, is that there are going to be, depending on what era you grew up in and whatnot, like kids nowadays, it's video is very commonplace. You
Oh,
grew up
yeah.
with it. It's nothing. It's like that's what you just do. And then there's people who are just like, terrified of doing video. But what I will say is that it's something you got to ease into if you are scared. And a phrase that I hear a lot too is "do it afraid." Do it anyway. Do it afraid.
Yeah.
And you build that muscle. You build that muscle. I remember when live happened, like, what 2015, 2016,
Yeah.
when we had Periscope and stuff. I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh gosh, I can't
Totally.
even do that." Right? And then then there's times when I'm like, I don't know how to do a video, but the more you do it, it becomes easier. It becomes easier. You even start to develop this like, screw it, I'm just going to show up however I'm going to show up, and we also have to fight the resistance to make it perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at, this is what I will say too. Look at some of the videos and the reels that you watch and pay attention to how some of those people show up. Some people, a lot, that's not some, a lot of people are in their bed. A lot of people are in their car. A lot of people are doing
Are.
errands.
Yes.
They're in the driveway, not the
Yeah.
driveway, the drive, well, and driveway, but they're in the drive-through ordering stuff. Like it's there's something that people like about it being not so perfect. But the polished videos have its place. I will say I love it. I was like, wow, the editing was awesome.
Yeah.
But I say that it doesn't matter. It's like you don't we don't need to feel that you can't put something out if you're not, it's not polished. Not everybody expects your videos to be polished. And so sometimes you could just literally just start talking. And I think if we can remember that, that might bring some comfort, that like, okay, and every person that is a huge influencer, or they have a large following, I can't think of one of them that hasn't said in the beginning, the first video, it sucked. And they will
Yes.
show it. They will show it as an encouragement to all of us who are trying to, get there. Like, hey, your first video is going to suck. Just accept it.
Yeah.
So stop waiting. So stop waiting for you to be ready till the video is perfect, that you got it down. Like the only way you're going to get perfect, not even perfect, but the only way you're going to get good at it is if you make the 50 sucky videos. It's like you
I
have to go through
totally
that.
hear you. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you have to go
totally
to the
true.
you have to go to the first sucky videos. I mean, I don't you know what's funny? I don't even know how our first episodes were when we started this 4 years ago.
Oh my god. Okay,
I should
here's
go
another
back to
one.
it just for fun.
You know what? And even still, I have my moments today. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get tongue tied. There's thought blocking that happens. I miss a word. Stuff happens. It's life. It is okay. You should go back. And I'm telling you this, if you want some confidence, go back and watch or listen to Core Women, the Core Women podcast. Go back to my first episode and
Right.
compare it to today.
Oh
Okay.
my
It
gosh.
is
I
night and day. And I had
right?
no idea, Jen,
And
no
how
idea
many
what I was doing.
episodes what episode did you just, upload?
I just
What number?
released yesterday. I just released the 300 and what was that? 339th episode.
Okay, people.
339.
339. She's done the reps, okay? If she waited till it was perfect, she wouldn't be where she is today. And her podcast, Corwin Podcast, check it out if you haven't already. It's in the top, was it 3% in the world?
3%. 3% globally. Yes.
Top 3%. You think she got there because she was waiting all day until, years,
Yeah.
to get it perfect? No, you do the reps and it's okay. We all start off with a sucky video, a sucky reel, a sucky podcast interview. Like we all have done it. I mean, I laugh when those Facebook, this is not video, but I laugh when I have those Facebook posts come up from like
Yeah.
God, 12
Years
years
ago.
ago or 8, whatever. I haven't like I started in 2007 and some of them come up and I'm just like, that was a crappy post. Well, I don't even know what I was writing. Like, I remember when Facebook first came out and I was just like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I had a great day. Because it wasn't what it is today, right? As it's
Yeah.
evolved, but it's just funny when I see those old posts come up. I laugh at myself thinking like, man, I so did not know how to use this platform. I didn't even know what the hell I was writing. And it's the same thing with video, right? You watch some old videos and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, that was a crappy YouTube video I uploaded." But don't take it down. Don't take it
Yeah.
down. Because that stuff
Yeah.
builds that stuff builds up, but I mean,
Yeah.
we're laughing at it. And that's I think something we can also focus on as well where you're going in fear and you're thinking about it, but just trust us and know that you will get to a point where it's further down in the future and you will laugh and you will look back and laugh because you're just like, "Oh man, those sucked." Everybody feels this
Seriously.
way though. Everybody will laugh at their
Everybody.
first couple of videos and stuff and laugh and go like, Man, that sucked." But
Oh
you
man.
get better.
Okay. Here's the deal. And I want to get into some tips too, but I also want to
Yeah.
read Bibiana's comment. Bibiana says, that's true. Ha ha ha. But VHS cameras, at least we were huge and you knew they were filming. Absolutely. That was the funny thing, B, is you saw them coming. And that's when it was so funny. You would see people go and
Dodging.
get out of the way of the camera, right? They just didn't want to be there. And so it
Now
was
people are
just,
jumping in. They wanna photobomb it and video
yeah,
bomb it.
now, but
Right.
years ago, it was especially at those parties, kids did not want to be filmed. They did not want evidence. Like
I
we
don't want
thought
my
about
parents
this
knowing I
stuff.
was here.
Yeah, and we're like, heck no, do not get us on video. We don't want to be on video. We don't want anybody to know we're here, right? And so, yeah, thank goodness, because there's
So
pros and
funny.
cons to all this stuff, right? And so Bibiana says, we're not we. I really don't like that much realism, to be honest, she said. That's amazing. Congratulations. So, yeah, I mean, thank you, B. There's so many perspectives about this. And yet, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are doing something in community that you want to know about, that visibility is so important because it really will help people understand who you are and be authentic, be who you are. I want to go back to something you said, Jen, about these videos not being perfect. I truly agree with that. I love polished videos. Do not get me wrong. I love them. I think they're awesome. But honestly, when people just get transparent, they're sitting in their car and they're talking about weight loss and what they're eating. And I'm like leaning in, leaning in. It could be putting on makeup and talking about something. There are these women on it's TikTok that do these videos, and it's to calm and soothe, and it's a certain type of like modality that's very therapeutic for people. And it's like it's dark, they're just talking and they're like, okay, now I'm going to put some makeup on you, and they're doing these things, and they're not really, but they're getting out like these different tools, so to speak, that are going to make these certain sounds that just are very soothing for people. And
Mhm.
they are excelling in regards to what they're doing and getting noticed because they're becoming more visible with what they're doing. It's not perfect, it's live, and then it becomes a video. And here's the other thing, you don't have to do this all at once. Come up with a game plan, come up with a strategy, and think about your visibility action plan. What do you want that to look like? What are those micro moments of visibility that you can schedule either daily, 3 times a week? Come up with a plan. Because I think when you come up with a plan, you don't feel so scattered. You don't feel like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, but I don't know how to do this. But if you get little bits of information out there, once, twice, 3 times a week. What do you think that's doing? That's increasing your visibility. The more authentic you are, I will tell you, and you have that transparency, or you're showing that transparency, that also makes a difference because that builds up trust with your viewers, your listeners about who you are. So over editing, over, making everything perfect, people don't get to see the real you. They don't get to see you flub up because everybody does. Everybody does. I'm telling you, go back to those Core Women podcast episodes. Go back to the emotional or life, love, and money videos that we've done. Trust me, we flub up. We started just where you would begin as well. And who knows, you might have different tricks and things that help you move through it. So you were right, Jen. When Periscope came out, I was doing a Drive for Life campaign to support and really make people aware of veteran suicide. And so I drove from DC all the way to California with 2 other women, and we stopped at different locations to talk to veterans about their experiences in war, their trauma, all of these things. And we went on video and we went on the radio show, but we also did Periscope. I had no idea how to do it. And my partner was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, but we have to try it. We really need to try this. This is something new. Like we
For those of you who don't know what Periscope is, it was the precursor to Facebook Live.
right.
It was like the
And
first live platform.
it was. And I felt so uncomfortable, but I made myself, and I am not a public speaker. Like Jen loves to get on stage and she loves to
You know what
talk
though?
and
I'd
do
rather do
connect.
live stage than live video by myself. It's really weird.
Really?
It's no different. Yeah, I rather do live in person. Weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's just so
not
much more
me.
comfortable for me than live video. It's
Mm,
just weird. I don't know. It's just
really?
yeah. I'd rather be on
Yeah.
a stage, just
To
talk.
me, it's kind of all uncomfortable, but the stage is even more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I
Like, I
know.
like doing fireside chats and I like being on stage where I'm asking people questions.
Yeah.
That I love. But if I'm going solo, man, I'd rather be on video.
I love it. I don't I
Man,
love it. Me by myself on video, weirdness. Freaking weird.
really?
Yeah, really weird for me, but live on
Why?
a
Why do
stage,
you think
fine.
that is? Tell me more.
I don't know. I don't know if it's because and it's weird because, like, I know if somebody's in the audience, they could totally record it. I
Yeah.
think, but most of the time people aren't. So I think it's just like you caught it and that's it. It's gone. But I think there's something about the video that's just like that's permanent, And
Mhm.
I freaked out a little bit when no, not a lot. I freaked out a lot when I did TEDx because I was like, oh my gosh, this thing going on YouTube. That scared me.
Yeah. Wow. But it
Weird.
was perfect. It was
Oh,
awesome.
thank you. There was a lot of practice. A lot of
Oh,
practice.
yeah.
Did you have any tips you had before we wrapped up?
Oh, great, great, great. So, let me shift this. Let me read a couple of real quickly of comments. Um, Viviana says, "You didn't want your parents to know." Busted, totally. If somebody
The
was doing
party?
video back then, I'm serious. Never was I in video. No way. They've got some pictures, and I always think, where are all the pictures of me? And I'm like, we just didn't take them because we didn't want evidence. So, Viviana says, I meant about being in bed and filming. It's cringy to me. Aha. Those are very Glinda, the good witch. I like those patchouli crystal healing ones. Yes. So, thank you, B. Um, my nugget. Well, first, let's start with your nugget, Jen.
Oh, okay. Well, it's New Year's Eve, and I think, talking in light of, being going beyond the comfort zone, I think it's helpful if you take some time to ask yourself, what are the things you wanna leave behind in 2024 that are getting in the way of you showing up?
Hmm.
And then ask yourself, if I don't show up, where am I gonna be in 2026 in January? And do you want
Ooh.
that to be and do you wanna be in the same place? So I think I think sometimes when you can identify concretely, like, "Oh my gosh, these are the things that I wanna leave behind, and if I don't leave these behind and I don't show up fully, what's going to happen if I don't show up?" And I think that can be very sobering, where you start to realize, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in the same place," or, "Oh my gosh, I wanna feel that I made some progress, or that I accomplished, some of these things by showing up." And it can and set a small goal if you want, Maybe it's just like show up live once a week or whatever, Summer talked about having a strategy or plan. Determine what that consistent thing that you can do, whether it's once a week or week to week or, twice whatever that thing is, figure out what that thing that is consistent that you need to do in order for you to show up.
I love that.
Thank you. How about you?
So, my nugget is do something that gets you out of your comfort zone to really think about being visible, but thinking more about how is this year, because we're going into the new year tomorrow. What do you want from this new year? What do you want
Mm,
to change? But get into a place of outside your comfort zone where you're actually able to think about that, where you're able to shut things down. I'll give you a quick example. So, what was it last week? I did 12 hours in a room called an EE system room, and it was quiet and it had all these screens that are giving out and emitting these electrons and this energy. And it was quiet. And there was myself and a friend, and we spent the night there, and it was time of self-reflection, meditation, gathering this energy to really come into the new year in a way that it feels balanced. I feel balanced. So do
mm.
something that's going to take you out of your comfort zone to really get into that place or that zone of center of balance of renewed energy. That would be my tip for today. Let me just read these last comments. He said, I'm jumping in the ocean tomorrow and freezing my arse off. That's not comfortable at all. True. Progress is important. Happy New Year, ladies. Great show, Fab New Year. Sounds cool. Yes, absolutely. Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll be here next week on Tuesday at the same time. Please
Yay.
join us. Share this with your friends. If you haven't watched the Emotional Entrepreneur Show, you can catch the replays on Instagram, on YouTube, and we hope you can join us next week. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Jen.
Happy New Year to you too, and to everybody out there, thanks for joining us. See you next year.
Yeah, see you next year. Let me cue the music.
I
Oh
always
my
love saying
goodness.
that. It's like the never ending joke. See you next year.
Right. You ready to dance us out?
Let's go.
All right.
Be safe tonight. Have fun.
Bye, everyone. Woo! Bye, everyone. Take care. See you next year and Happy New Year's Eve. Ciao.
The robot. I can only do it with one arm.
That's me.
Broken robot.
Oh, my goodness.